Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name's Melina and today we're going to be doing my May wrap-up. So I typically do my May wrap-up before June starts, or I'm lying, maybe I do, maybe I don't. Sometimes I do. Usually the goal is to try to finish this earlier, but it may not have felt like this for you guys, but I did take a week off of recording anything. I did have a family emergency, and so I needed time off. It was a very hard week to come back to, and so I'm back and I'm ready to talk about my books and my thoughts. So let's start off the month with what I basically almost finished completely in April, but didn't actually finish it until the beginning of May, and that is Golden Sun. This is the second book in the Red Rising series. I think I like this one better. This follows a main character who was raised as the poorest class in their society, and he soon realizes that he is the poorest class. I don't think they realize the hierarchy of their society until his eyes are opened because of this miraculous, traumatizing event. And so in the first book, he infiltrates the highest ranking society, and they are the Golds. And so from there, he is given a position of power, and the book kind of continues in this one. If you were not a fan of the first one because it was a little bit confusing, it was a lot of world building, you were just thrown into this world pretty much, or you weren't a big fan of like the Hunger Games-esque types of fighting and trials and everything, I think you'll like this one a little bit more. This was definitely a lot more political throughout this world. It was a lot of one-upping one another and scheming and strategizing, while also seeing the same friendships and found family that's kind of found in the first book. I do think that this book was leaps and bounds better than the first one, but I really don't have any notes. This one ended on a huge cliffhanger. I am really looking forward to the next one. I was planning on kind of reading like a book a year kind of thing, but I don't see myself lasting a full year. I'm taking a little bit of a break to read a little bit lighter stuff for the summer, but I will be back probably before the end of 2024 and read the third one, which I think is called Morning Star. Don't quote me on that. I'm not completely sure. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, you could just let me know. But I highly recommend this. I would consider this to be more of like a dystopian fantasy-esque. People really like to, I mean, I guess it is a sci-fi, but it's not written like a sci-fi. It's definitely written like a dystopian fantasy, in my opinion. I ended up rating this 5 stars. So take that as you will. Then I continued my month by reading some books that are in my TBR, physical TBR, and they've been for a long time. I think I explained this in my last video. When I first joined Bookstagram, I got a little eager and I saw all of Lauren Asher's books all over. And the Billionaire series was currently like being released as I joined Bookstagram, like I think the second and third book specifically. And so when I joined, people were talking about this series as well because she was getting really hyped. And for my birthday one year, because for my birthday I just tend to go overboard, or I tend to go overboard with my book buying, and so I ended up buying a whole bunch of series, and most of them I ended up not really liking, which is kind of funny, but I ended up buying the Throttled series. I think they're called the Dirty Air. Yeah, the Dirty Air series. And so this month I finally took the time to read the first book. And actually, I am really pleasantly surprised. I will say, if you did read the Dreamland Billionaire series, I think that that series was better written. But I do think that this plot has been more enjoyable for me. The characters definitely have a more distinct change in personality, because I felt like a lot of the brothers, or 2 of the brothers in the Dreamland Billionaire series were exactly the same. And that kind of threw me off from reading like the same character twice. This is not that. This is also a race car romance series, and I've really enjoyed that. I've liked the introduction of all the characters. I like the female perspective and the male perspective, and while, like I said, the writing is not as good, because of course I'm pretty sure this is her debut series, I'm actually really excited to jump into something like this. It's not heavy, it's pretty quick to read, there's not much depth, and that's fine. And I ended up rating this at 3.75 stars, which is really unexpected for me. I expected to rate this a lot lower, but we'll see how the series continues. Then I read This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead, and that was my thriller book for my thriller book club. As always, I have a thriller book club on Fable where we meet also virtually once a month to talk about the book, and that was our book pick of the month. So it's kind of cool because I did receive an ARC for this one, but it was nice because my book club is really excited. They really enjoy. We've read Ashley Weinstein last year as well, Winstead. We read her book last year. And so to go back to read this one, our group was very mixed in this, and I personally really enjoyed it. I did feel like the book was a lot longer than I expected it to be, and it dragged on for a lot longer. But the plot, the idea of having like online sleuths to try to hunt down murderers is always very interesting and fascinating to me. Also mixing into this whole thing like the misinformation, the bias from these people who are obviously not trained to actually be detectives in any way. I really enjoyed it. The twists and turns were fun. I enjoyed the characters, the plot twists, everything. Like I said, I think my main gripe with the story was the fact that it was really long. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. 4.25 stars for me. Then I read the second book in the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and it was Kingdom of the Cursed. And I loved it. This one was so much better than the first one. I think I ended up rating the other one like a 3.75 stars. And this one definitely gave so much more. I think because I was already because I was thrown into the world already in the first book, and I already knew a lot of the terminology and the creatures and the monsters and the world, etc., etc. This one was a lot less daunting to get into, and the first book also left on not a cliffhanger, but definitely like a plot point where you just want to just keep on reading. And so it continues right from there. There is no time jump or anything like that. You jump in and it literally is exactly where the first book ended. And so you get to see more of your favorite characters. The slow burn is more than slow burning in this one. It actually turns into, seems like, more of a fully fledged out romance. There's still a lot of questions when it comes to the romance subplot, but I have been enjoying this, and this one did end on an extreme cliffhanger. And I'm so confused and I'm so excited, and I'm like, who's actually good? Who's actually evil? Where is this going to end up? And those are the fantasies that I like, the ones where you're just eager to read the next one, and that's how I felt for the first book, and now I'm really excited for the third book. And I also think it comes to a conclusion, because even though there's a spin-off, it doesn't follow these two characters as the main characters, so that will be fun. I rated this one a 4.25 stars. Then next up, I read Same Time Next Summer by Annabel Monaghan. I said it right this time. I feel like I've always destroyed her last name. So I received an ARC for her latest release, and I realized I only read, Nora Goes Off Script, and I really enjoyed her writing. I don't know how she has the ability to write really fun, fully fledged out women's fic, like literary fiction, romances in like less than 300 pages, and I really enjoy them. I feel like she tends to also write about characters who are a little bit older, late 20s, 30s, 40s, etc., etc. This is a second chance romance, and it follows a girl who used to, it's a dual timeline, so it follows her and her childhood friend who turned into a lover, and explains why they broke up, and in present day kind of seeing our characters where they are now and how they kind of find themselves to come back together after all the time that has passed. I think it was over 10 years. So it was interesting. I think there are bits of this that I don't love, but there are a lot of things that I really do like. I like the idea of, they talk a lot about timing and the importance of timing, especially when you're so young. These people had fallen in love since they were like 14 or 15. And obviously when they turn 18, the whole thing with college, and one of them was trying to be a musician, and kind of the miscommunication throughout all of it, and even things going on in the background, how almost timing is everything, that you could really truly love someone a lot, and sometimes the timing just isn't right for either of you. I feel like seeing them also grow into the people they were, and kind of how they move forward from it and have those conversations and find themselves to fall in love. Once again, it was kind of nice. I really enjoy her writing. Again, I really like that she could pack so much into a short book, especially I feel like when romances just tend to get longer and longer as time has progressed. Like 350 pages and less for a romance is almost always enough. And so I feel like now where there's this trend of 500-page romances is kind of outrageous, and more often than not I feel like it doesn't need that much, and I just feel like, well, I enjoyed it, but I kind of wish they came to the conclusion a little bit quicker. I appreciate her. Actually, for my book club, my in-person book club, we're reading the one after this, which I think is called Same Time Next Summer. So I'm really excited because I like her books. I ended up rating this a 4.25 stars. Then I actually tackled a few of the arcs that I did mention last month that I wanted to hit. I did Not Safe for Work by Nisha Tuli. That was a workplace romance. It's kind of like they're not really enemies. I think that's how it's like advertised. It's kind of like a rivals question mark to lovers. It's a huge miscommunication trope. I don't really like that. I hate when they do workplace romances where like, oh, she overheard him saying something and from that moment on they were enemies, or he disagreed with me once and we became enemies. Like, it just felt a little silly when it was very obvious from the first few pages they seemed to be really interested in one another, hence the fake enemies. I felt the writing was fine. There was nothing wrong with the writing itself, and I always love the discussion of like women in STEM and women being treated differently in the workplace or looked down upon for being a woman in the workplace when you see other people getting the raises and getting the promotions and getting everything, but they are not as qualified. I always love that conversation because it still happens today. Other than that though, I will say that the book wasn't that special to me. I think the cover was beautiful and I liked a lot of elements about the story, but overall I rated it a 3.5 stars. After that, I read Time Loops and Meet Cutes by Jackie Lau, another arc, and this one was kind of fun. It had a lot of elements that I really enjoy. It was our main character kind of doing like a Groundhog's Day situation where after eating some random dumplings at a night market, she finds herself reliving like a June 20th over and over and over again. And no one remembers it except for one person, this female who she becomes friends with, which is not that important. But anyways, the one consistency that she's noticed no matter how she switches up her routine on this day is this one guy. And so obviously she gets to know this guy and she starts to fall in love with this guy, and it kind of sucks because they're always reliving the same day. So while she is learning more about him and getting stronger feelings for him, he doesn't remember any of it. And so of course you're trying to figure out like, how is she going to leave this time loop? Why is it even happening? Like all of those things. And it was really fun to also see her go from like, I need to work hard, I need to focus on doing the most at work that I possibly can in hopes of in the future becoming better paid and harder working. And so instead of living for today, she was living very much for the future, and seeing her realize that obviously that didn't really matter in the long run, because living the same day in day out, she realizes she's not close to her family members, she's not that close to her best friends. She had basically isolated herself to try to focus on this job. She had no hobbies, she had, so that was, I think, one of my favorite things, seeing her rediscover herself as an adult and kind of focus and prioritize herself and her interests, and kind of just stepping out of this routine that she was always in. The romance element was fun. It kind of, obviously it's fresh. It's hard to be like, wow, it was a really cute romance, when at the end of the day, the guy really did not remember what was happening throughout almost the whole story. Eventually she does get out of the time loop, and I felt the whole thing a little bit silly towards the end. I kind of wish that there was a better conclusion for it, and maybe that's me nitpicking, but I don't know. That's just me. I ended up rating it a 3.5 stars as well. Then I read The Love Haters by Katherine Center, and this was a book that I anticipate all year round. I really enjoy Katherine Center's writing. I really enjoyed all of her romances that I've read since The Bodyguard. And so when I received an arc for this, I was so excited. I could not believe that I was getting the opportunity to read this book early. It's kind of disappointing because this probably is my least favorite Katherine Center book that I've read. It follows a girl who is a videographer, and she is basically on the verge of being fired, and the one way to save her job, her boss sent her down to Florida in order to shoot this kind of cool commercial thing with the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard element of this book was so interesting. I found it so fascinating. I really, really enjoyed it, and I really liked the respect that they gave towards a job that is really difficult and is meant to save people. I did have a few issues with the romance buildup of it. The pacing was a little strange. I felt like it was like a nice buildup, and then it went from like 20% to 100 in like a few seconds, and I'm like, where did these feelings come from? I felt like it was lacking in some more interaction buildups to, like, the finale of them being in love and saying that they're in love with each other and all this stuff. I loved the side characters. I loved the dog. I loved the grandmother. I loved everyone who was at that motel little elderly community. I really enjoyed her friendships with her best friend. I also really enjoyed the topic of like body image issues and the journey that she went through that because she had dated somebody who ended up becoming a celebrity, and so she was being harassed and bullied online and pinpointing things that, you know, they didn't like about her, and that kind of caused this insecurity that she had never had before. And I did like the journey with that. I do wish that there was a little bit more with that, like more of a, I don't know, because I just feel like that's always an ongoing issue. That's not something that's just going to disappear. I feel like people just deal with self-image issues on and off forever. You know, there's moments where you feel more confident in yourself and how you look, and sometimes there's moments that you're not. I don't know, it just didn't click. Something was really missing in this story, and it kind of sucked for me to feel like it just was not my favorite. I ended up rating it a 3.25 stars. And then the moment I was waiting for the last year, I read Great Big Beautiful Life. For those of you who don't know, I did have a vlog that came out last week. If you watched that already, you kind of know my thoughts. I do think after sitting with this for a while, my thoughts have changed a little bit. This book has a lot of the magic you always want in her books. The way that she creates characters, the way she describes characters and builds these personalities and thoughts, and, you know, she makes them feel like real people. I loved the historical fiction element of this that gave me Evelyn Hugo vibes. I do feel like I kind of liked how the way she did her insta lust but slow burn, which is very not typical for her. This definitely was her spiciest book yet. I give or take. I mean, like, it didn't add or remove to my rating, but I also felt because I felt that the book romance element wasn't fully fledged out, I felt like the spice scenes didn't add to the story or take away. It just was there. I think it added to like the angst and the buildup, but I also do wish that there was more of a buildup between their relationship. I wish there was more with Alice's family issues, like the buildup for that, because the way that it concluded, I kind of felt like it was building up for this whole book and it concluded like in 2 pages. I kind of wish it was a little more. Overall, I know a lot of people did not really like the story, the part where they're interviewing the celebrity, the heiress, but I didn't have issues with that. That wasn't my issue with this book. I just felt like there was, for a book that's long, I think it's almost 500 pages. Oh no, it's 413. I felt like they could have added another 20 or 30 pages, and I think it could have been a little bit more fleshed out. There's some really beautiful quotes in here, like all of her books. And it wasn't my favorite, and that's fine. You know, it wasn't the worst one either. I think because I went into this with low expectations, I enjoyed it more than maybe some other people who went into it with really high expectations. It's not my favorite book, but that's fine. I ended up rating this a 4 stars. I initially rated this a 4.25, but I sat with this and I think I'm gonna rate it a 4 stars because I rated it higher because I really like her writing, but plot-wise, something is missing and it's just not my favorite. So 4, I think that's a fair rating for me. And finally, I don't have the physical copy. I did order it. It's not here yet. I ordered Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt, and this is the second book in the Spoons Small Town, like, series. I don't know if it's going to be more to this. I don't know if she's going to make a book for each of the siblings. The first book was Savor It, which I really enjoyed, and so I was really looking forward to this one because they did hint at a lot of the issues within these 2 characters. So this is a second chance romance, and it's interesting the way that she did this because she did not do dual timeline. She made one of the characters kind of write like diary entries breaking down the relationship from her eyes now as a grown adult. I think she's in her 30s, and she was thinking about when they met and thinking about like the interactions they had, and so it was kind of fun for her to reflect on it versus it being a complete dual timeline. It is dual POV, so you get both of the characters' perspectives on the present day, and it follows these 2 people who ended up having a teen pregnancy, so they ended up raising a child really young. And because of the stress of their lives and, you know, things that happened with them, they ended up breaking up and getting a divorce. And after many, many years, neither of them have been fully able to move on. And when they're sending their child off to college, they decide to take this final road trip kind of in hopes to see if there's anything left there, if they should even give it another chance, or if they should just be friends finally after avoiding each other for all these years. And it's so beautiful. It was really, really nice. I enjoyed both perspectives. I enjoyed seeing the genuine growth between the characters and seeing why it would work this time around versus, you know, they showed and told me versus just being like, we're better now. Like it really felt like there was a lot of growth. The pacing of this was really nice and realistic. It felt so nice. And it made complete sense as to why they didn't work the first time around and now would work out. I think I still like savor it more I think it's me, I connect to this one a little bit more personally, but this one is so good. I can't wait. I hope she does some of the other siblings in the series. There's still 2 more brothers, and so I really hope that they do, but you know, I ended up rating this a 4-star. And yeah, like I read so let's count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I read 10 books, and I think I kept to my TBR pretty well. I did have, I think, like 14 books on my TBR, so I wasn't going to hit all of them, but I'm pretty proud of myself for sticking to it. But yeah, I have a list of books that I'm so excited to read this month because this is my birthday month. And I was going back and forth between whether I wanted to do a TBR drawer or not, but I decided that for my birthday month, I'm just going to read what I want. And that's it, you know, like a regular standard TBR, which I'll share with you in the next video. But for now, this is it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.